In 1964, Lyndon B. Johnson launched his War on Poverty, and it's often celebrated for expanding civil rights, healthcare, and education. But it also involves social control, psychological experimentation, forced sterilization, and long-term surveillance of marginalized communities. There's also parallels to the tracking and experimentation of gifted individuals. Here are some of the most troubling elements on the War on Poverty. Number 1, through social engineering education programs. Programs like Head Start, Project Follow Through, and even Sesame Street. Now, these programs were designed to help children in low-income communities, but were also heavily studied and manipulated for research on behavior, conformity, and cognitive development. They were used to test direct instruction and behavioral modification methods, and some of these programs were backed by military-funded psychological research. Some of the poverty-focused programs were used to test theories of compliance, trauma response, and dependency. And here's where it gets even darker. Under the guise of fighting poverty, forced sterilizations were carried on thousands of poor women, mainly minorities, through programs funded by the federal government. These practices were mostly done without informed consent. One program was called the Mississippi appendectomies, which was a euphemism used for non-consensual hysterectomies of black women in the 60s. In Puerto Rico, from the 50s through the 70s, over 1/3 of the women were sterilized, often through U.S.-funded family planning clinics. This was also going on Native American reservations in the 70s. The Indian Health Service sterilized an estimated 25 to 40% of indigenous women of childbearing age. In 1970, Title X of the Public Health Service Act was supposed to be designed for voluntary family planning, but it quickly became a vehicle for aggressive contraception and sterilization efforts in poor communities, funded by the predecessor to HHS, with input from the Rockefeller Foundation, the Ford Foundation, and the Population Council. And I'm not going to harp on this a lot, but Title X clinics collaborated with clinics that were founded by Margaret Sanger. And then there were the experimental birth control trials on disadvantaged women. Poor women were used in early trials of the birth control pills, in Puerto Rico specifically, with severe side effects and no warnings. Norplant and the Depo-Provera, aka the Depo shot, were promoted in poor schools and clinics before FDA approval. Reports showed that inmates, disabled women, and even foster children were enrolled in these trials. And some of this was happening during that War on Poverty, and some of it happened after. But I think you get the picture. When it comes down to it, government programs always have a bright side and a positive angle, but when you look deeper, there usually is some darkness.